up, everybody? Welcome to episode 20, Breaking the Seal. 2-0. That's 20 weeks of content right there for y'all. Really appreciate the guests that are, have been joining on the podcast and, coming in and showing us what they have to offer. We had brewers, we've had people that are doing events, had restaurant owners, a lot of variety of people from the Rio Grande Valley, and just getting all that stuff out there for y'all to get to know what we're about down here. I'm Eddie. With me today, you got the ghost host.
What it fucking do?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's it going, bro? Doing all right today?
Yeah, man. Not too shabby, man. Not too shabby.
Yes, sir. I love to hear that. This week, if you don't listen to our podcast, one thing we like to do, since if this is your first time hearing, we have, pretty much a variety of beers that we like to try out, especially with like the new wave of types of flavors out there, from milkshakes all the way down to Snickers to, man, even this one that we're about to try here
Snickers.
from Carbach Brewing.
I want some Snickers
I
beer.
know we're still waiting on that Snickers beer, Mike. If you're listening, let us know, man. We'll go try to do that again. Out there and test out that Snickers beer, or just pick up some. So this week we are doing Viva Chile, Viva Chela. So it's brewed in Texas, Carbach, as you know. Awesome company. They're always doing some good stuff. My favorite beer is Love Street from them.
Yeah, that's a great beer, dude.
So I wanted to try this one.
I was literally in love with Love Street.
Yeah, Love Street is, and I love the story behind it. This one is also has a great story behind it too. They're just trying to do something with that Texas flavor. It's lime and salt, right? Lime and salt.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Already combined.
Infused.
And this is one infused together. This is one I actually had a chance to, like a home brewer, kind of put something together. His name was Nathan. Hopefully we'll have him on soon. He's a competitor out there. He's won some beer competitions. Shout out to him. But he had something, I believe, something similar to this. So hopefully this is my first time trying it. So it's a cerveza with salt and lemon. They say that a couple of good things to try with are some chicken fajitas, some other varieties, some fajitas, some tacos, and then also like a beach chair is one of the recommendations.
Or just I would recommend you try it on the beach at
on
SPA.
the beach. On SPI. So we're gonna be trying this one out, see how it is. Oh man, yeah,
100% SPI vibes.
So yeah, you get that lemon right off the bat and the salt together. Like definitely, it's like a beach vibe.
Immediately takes you to SPI. But it's pretty light.
That gulp went down smooth, man.
As you can see on
very
Eddie's
smooth
beer,
5.5 beer. I like the packaging itself too. Pretty awesome stuff. 5.5 alcohol by volume. So this is what the description: vibrant and fresh, this elegant Mexican style lager comes impeccably dressed in bright lime and salt. It's a crisp, clean drinker in the finest tradition. Viva las chelas. I guess we just gave him a free ad read. Well, congrats.
What was it called? I would say though, it is kind of hard. I think when you infuse salt and lime in a beer. I think what Budweiser did that, or Bud Light did that.
Yeah, I guess like the difference is like that peel, right? Like you don't get like when you put it in. I'm not really getting that.
Yeah, you're talking about like the little burn, you're saying?
It's kind of like that peel, like the peel that you taste with the other citrus. It's kind of like that real like distinct, but it's pretty good.
I will say, I mean,
especially like after these hot days, especially after some rain, you know how it gets super hot.
Dude. Super humid, dude. Yesterday on Saturday it was super freaking hot during the day. Ridiculous. We're about to get that summer heat, that hot alien summer heat. You know what I'm saying? That hot alien summer heat. Before we jump into that,
this week we had a chance to sit down with Noe. If you have been listening to our podcast, we kind of mentioned our next guest for the next few weeks. So Noe is going to be one of them that we have on today. We're going to be talking about his new book that he has out. So it's to 20th century American sightings. It's going to be 20th century UFOs, American sightings. Sorry, you can find that on Amazon. You can find that at Target, Barnes and Noble, online. And the response has been amazing with this book. So that's why he's continuing to create these series of books. This is the 7th one. And it's all just history based. And all of his, we go over that too. he makes sure to look at all the details from newspaper clippings all the way down to like journal accounts. There's a lot of people that have been talking about their sightings and their experiences through writing that nobody really has picked up, or it hasn't really got momentum. But now that the government's been releasing a lot of this information, we have been
releasing
getting excited about
and
it.
about to release a full-on report, right? All of this declassified
A UFO summer, as we call it.
No, it's a hot alien summer. Hot alien summer.
I don't know what I think. Hot alien. I think Gamora. Like I was talking about last week. Gamora just I don't know why. I guess those Corona commercials. She's been coming out a lot. God, those Corona commercials. But dude, this beer is very solid, man. Is he so? With
I will say though,
they're always pushing the bar. They're always doing some stuff. If there was like an IPA that I first started, it was with them. Like. And Love Street was really one of them too that really got me, and I really loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say
is like my go-to beer, man. Love Street.
Love Carbach. I think they have a bunch of badass brews. I think with this one though, it's just difficult, really, like I mentioned, to infuse this lime and salt. It's just difficult, and for me,
I guess, like what do you that sourness is like?
The sourness
is it sour, a little too sour for you, or what?
It's not that it's too sour, but it's more, I guess, on the two.
It's really like you can put like it's a punch, like boom.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like what I've kind of got accustomed to, because I do.
It's not like 100%.
When it's a hot day, I do catch myself getting like the salt and the lime on top, like what do they call it, dressed. But
yeah, I love that too.
I haven't really done that in a while. Well, I haven't been out in a while. I've been kind of just at home making some content and stuff for everybody. But
it's been working.
Yeah. So the Viva Cella. So we had a chance to try it. I'll give it a good, man. It's one. I think it's like when it comes to flavors, Dos Equis is good, but this is a lot level. So I would give it a 7 out of 10. Dos Equis, I give Dos Equis like overall like a 6 out of 10. This beer 7 out of 10. 7.5.
What
close
happened?
To an 8.
I mean, what happens if Dos Equis is dressed though? Do you give it like an extra point?
I give it that like remainder, but
yeah.
But the thing I noticed about this one, it's just a lot smoother than Dos Equis. Dos Equis still kind of has a little skunky.
It does have like a little bit of a heavier taste.
Or I guess you could say the hoppy taste. That's
what I was saying.
That's what that skunk. Yeah, the hop.
It is a little heavier, so to speak. This one is a lot smoother than Dos Equis for sure.
It's a lot lighter.
This one's ready to go. Again, if you're at the beach, if you're at a fucking pool party, hell yeah, man, pop one of these open. But I do think that trying to capture that whole lime and salt infusion is difficult. And I don't want to say they didn't 100% capture it, because I do feel like there's that sourness.
I think if there's a little bit more salt in this, then they got it.
Yeah, I think maybe salt or like more like fresh lime is what I'm trying to say. Is like it tastes like as if it was like a lime that was kind of already kind of on its
or like
end
like
days.
if you're like one of the things,
it wasn't like a fresh lime, but that's what I'm saying. It's hard to preserve.
If they were to use
lime,
like a valley lime, like
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a valley lemon or something, right? A valley lemon infused with this, then I think they would have captured because
don't people go crazy over is it the valley lemon,
or
the lime?
No, it's valley lemons, right? But even there's some limes here in the RGB.
Because I know there's people that are like, oh, we love there's the valley.
There's the valley lemons, bro. Those are the yellow ones that are super sour, that are fucking delicious.
If they would have done that would have been even
better. Yeah, so I give it a 7. My 7 because it's good, it's smooth, it's ready to go. I don't give it any higher just because, again, I think they slightly missed the infusion mark. Again, the lime kind of tastes, again, it's like one of those limes that is like, not a fresh lime. It tastes like, again, it's hard to preserve. That's why I think, I give it that 7. This infusion of lime and salt is difficult. Very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think it's like a poolside beer. Like if you catch yourself at the island and you see one of these, pick it up. That's the thing too. Like everybody thinks.
Hey man, who showed you how to pour beer, bro? Didn't I show you how to like pour beer the first episode, and you still haven't learned?
But I know, man. I'm a
failure
to society.
I told you, you gotta tilt it, bro. See, this is what happens when you don't tilt the fucking the mug.
You gotta give it a little. I call it like you gotta chill for a little bit. It's like the pour after the pour. You gotta let it sit. Let it sit. Look at that.
But if you would just pour it right,
but if you think of all the chemicals, like that's pretty much what happens when you do the beer and the lime, right? It kind of like. Look at how it's like popping and sizzling, and it just went down like pretty quick.
Yeah, I guess because you did a decent job pouring it.
Also, podcast we have with Noe. This is a part 3 of our UFO talk we have with him. So don't forget to tune in to our part 1 and part 2 that we have with Noe. We talk more in depth this time about his book from 1900 all the way down to 1919 around there.
It's 1900 to like 1920.
And then he also talks about his next book,
the Roaring 20s,
the future of the expo and things like that. So it was cool. I really appreciate Noe coming on. And one thing I can't stress enough, make sure you like, subscribe to our YouTube page, follow us on our Facebook page and Instagram, and then also podcast, wherever podcasts are found, you can find us there too. We have a lot of content out there, and then we really appreciate the support we're getting from everybody from Brownsville, even all the way down, even from the podcast level. I was looking at everybody, shout out to the people from Ohio and then people from Dallas that are listening, and Colorado too. So appreciate y'all support, and willing to hear what we have to offer here down in South Texas, and all the Texas beers we have. I know that's one of the things that everybody's been really wanting to get a hold of how we do it down here, and hope this podcast can be that for y'all. So don't forget to subscribe, and then also just hear our past episodes on the podcast platforms. If you do like the podcast platforms, I can't stress that enough. Go follow us there. Facebook, we do like to put it on Facebook because we know a lot of people in our area are new to podcasts, so we're kind of just putting that out there for y'all so you can get used to what the podcast format is. If there is a format, nobody can really tell how a podcast is supposed to be formatted, but we try to do our best to get at least some content there for y'all that we love, and we know that you all are going to love too. So appreciate y'all support. Shout out to Distortion Radio, and make sure you follow Breaking the Seal on all social media and podcast platforms. So without further ado, we got Noe in. Let's go. We're going to take it out of this world.
Hot alien summer.
Hot UFO, hot alien summer, baby. Let's go. We're getting out of this world. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 20 with us today. We got Noe Torres, local author and UFO researcher. Really appreciate you joining again. Thanks so much. Really, we love the festival. I had a chance to stop by, and it was awesome, man. A lot of people, a lot of turnout too, especially like the kiddos dressed up and everything. It was real cool to see that. But I wanted to bring you on because I know you have your book coming out, so it's going to be the early. Pretty much 20th century UFOs, American sightings. So this is all just like something that you just had a chance to launch recently, right?
Yeah, it's a continuation of our ongoing book series of UFO cases before the modern era. Everybody knows all the stories of the UFO sightings that have happened since Roswell in 1947, the 50s, the 60s, lots of UFO sightings. And now we're coming back into our modern era when we're starting to see the government finally admit that UFOs exist, which we'll talk about more during the show. Yes, but going back in time, I think, is enlightening because it enables us to see that UFOs have been with us since the beginning of man's history. They're not a recent phenomenon, even though recently they've been in the news and people are suddenly extremely interested in them. I get stopped every day by coworkers and other people I know who are wanting to know more about what's going on right now. So yeah, the books, the new book, it tells a lot of interesting stories, such as the survivors of the Titanic sinking having seen UFOs.
Oh, what?
And other stories that we can talk about during the show today. But once again, the point was to show people that UFOs have been with us since the beginning of our history. It's not a new thing.
And this is, again, like you mentioned, a continuation of the saga, right, so to speak, of I know you had that one, the real cowboy and aliens, and then a few other books, and this is, like you said, a continuation, right? And I do like how you say that, again, this is something that's been with us since the dawn of times, in a way.
That's correct.
Speaking of that, no, I know one of the first chapters you mentioned like there's a horseshoe shaped UFO that was sighted, that that was seen back in the day, and then there was another scene back another sighting back in like 2019. That was pretty interesting. So can you tell us more about that, what you found out in your research there? The
well,
horseshoe shape.
when we go back in time, we started with the year 1800, and we looked at reported UFO sightings since the year 1800 to the present. Well, actually, we're up to the 1920s. We're working on a book right now that'll be released soon on UFOs of the Roaring Twenties, as we call it. But to get to your point, what's really interesting is people in way back when in the 1800s were looking at UFOs in the skies that resembled a lot of the same shapes, colors, and um, the trajectories and the ballistic motion that we see in modern UFO sightings. They were seeing silver metallic discs. They were seeing cigar-shaped metallic objects. They were seeing objects that streaked across the sky and at an incredible rate of speed, way beyond anything that we have even today. And of course, in most of the time period that our books are about, there were no manned aviation craft of any kind. You know, we hadn't invented airplanes until the 19 teens. There were hot air balloons in the mid to late 1800s, but they would just go straight up and they come straight down. So they weren't really like maneuverable, and they didn't have motors or engines. So what was it that these people from long ago were seeing? They were seeing, triangle shaped UFOs. They were seeing horseshoe, as you mentioned. They were seeing all the shapes that we see today. And yet in the context of history, it's amazing that we found all these historical documents, newspaper articles, and so forth about these sightings from beginning in the year 1800 and continuing through so far the 1920s and on to today, that in all of this period of history, the UFOs have been with us, and they have a lot of the same characteristics. So who are these beings that are observing our planet? What is their objective? What do they want with our species? Are they strictly observing us? Is there an end game here that we don't know about? Perhaps they have a greater time frame or time scale than we do for whatever their ultimate end for our planet is. Or perhaps they have absolutely no interest in interfering in our affairs and are just wanting to study us and observe us. A friend of mine said, maybe like we observe the ants, we watch them building their little colonies, we watch how they behave with each other, but we're not really interested in becoming an ant and going down and living in an ant hill. You know, we are just studying them for our own edification and scientific research. So maybe that's it. We don't know for sure.
Especially like that, like avoiding just all like contact with humans and things like that. I mean, I feel like that's kind of one of the things they try to do as much. But one of the cool things I was noticing also in your book was Tesla, how he was kind of he got really fascinated with that aspect of communication with other planets. So tell us more about your research in that like how did you
the two greatest scientists of this time period in which our current book is about, the early part of the 20th century, the two greatest scientists were Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. They were both developing they were approaching electricity from two different angles, and eventually Edison's way of doing things won out, but many people even today feel that Tesla actually had a better platform. He was developing wireless electricity and a number of very innovative, way beyond his time sort of electricity scenarios, which would have revolutionized our society and would have given us electricity that was essentially almost free. I mean, it was the reason they went with Edison's scheme is because it was easier to regulate, and the companies could make tons of money off of it, which they are. Just look at my meter right outside my house spinning round and round.
Yeah, just look at your monthly bill.
I know, definitely. Like studying PR, like I remember that was one of the main things that they, one of the main campaigns they were really focusing us on to study. because the way that he kind of had those campaigns against Tesla about the wireless thing. Oh, you can get electrocuted. I think they even showed examples of like an elephant getting electrocuted. It was crazy back then.
Propaganda, man.
That's correct. But the other interesting thing is they were also studying emanations of electricity and radio waves propagating to the Earth from other planets. And both Edison and Tesla, but especially Tesla, were convinced that we were being signaled by the inhabitants of other worlds. Sometimes the newspaper articles, we looked at many of them, the newspaper articles of the time said that they believed the signals might be coming from Mars or Venus, but really they themselves didn't say, that they had a specific source. But rather they were just saying that they were picking up what seemed to be intelligent transmissions from other planets that did not originate from the Earth. Now, back in the 1900 to 1919 time period, which is what our current book covers, there were no emanations of electromagnetic signals coming from anywhere, very few on Earth. You had telegraphs, the beginning of telephones, and you had some generation of electricity by what we would now consider very primitive means. But there shouldn't have been any electromagnetic signals floating around our atmosphere and seeming to come from other planets. So what was it that they were picking up
or something? That's pretty crazy. I know that's one of the things you also mentioned too, that it could possibly be Marconi, like, which is he's the inventor of the radio, things like that too, that he was kind of doing his experiments. But
Marconi.
But it's kind of,
Marconi was interested in those signals as well. Now, some people were saying that they were picking up Marconi signals from Italy coming across to the U.S., but I don't think so, and the evidence doesn't seem to support that. I think what was going on is it's possible that whatever craft were in the skies and being seen all over the United States and the world at that time were perhaps generating some kind of electromagnetic field that was being picked up by the very sensitive equipment that Tesla had put up. He had these huge towers around New York that he had set up both to generate electrical waves and to pick up electrical waves. So he was very tuned in to what was going on, and Tesla was a strong believer in life on other planets. And so in my book,
it's so funny because, like, sorry to interrupt, but like,
no, go right ahead.
You know how Elon Musk, like, he named his cars after that, and he's one to say that, he's one to be one of the strong proponents about it. Like, he's like, no, there's nothing out there, especially this guy. I thought that was pretty, like, funny and ironic to think that, like, he kind of, you could tell he kind of, adores Tesla. He's naming one of his companies after them, but he doesn't really believe in it himself. It's kind of crazy. But I think he's just saying that because NASA, he works with NASA a lot.
Yeah,
he's getting funded by them, so he can't really say too much.
He was ahead of his time, basically, Tesla. And if I may, Noe, I mean, going back to seeing objects up in the sky, I do think I kind of, if it's okay, going over Titanic and some of I guess your newspaper articles that you gone over that, because I mean, of course, Titanic's always one of those tragedies that everyone just knows about. And I never heard that supposedly people there, survivors saw some stuff in the sky. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
We were very fascinated to find that, and the sinking of the Titanic is one of my favorite historical themes. I've read many books about it. And I remembered when we were preparing this book, it covers a time period during which the Titanic sank. And I remembered reading a long time ago, years ago, that the observers had seen some strange things in the sky above the sinking ship that night. So we went back and we looked at those accounts, and sure enough, a number of people made it to the rafts, and they were bobbing in the calm seas of the North Atlantic, watching the big ship go down by the head. And as they were sitting there taking in that unearthly scene of the Titanic going down, they saw above the Titanic these bright orbs of light, which looked like stars, except they were much lower. One of the survivors on one of the lifeboats said that it looked like the stars were coming down from heaven and were getting a close-up view of this horrible disaster that was happening. And they were suddenly there was like a whole flock of these orbs all around the Titanic, watching it sink. So other than the observation of these bright lights going around the ship and apparently observing it, there wasn't anything else to that story. But it's fascinating because if you, as I mentioned earlier, it's possible that these beings are observing us for some reason. So then they would know that there was a marker in our history, in the history of human society, when this ship with all these hundreds of souls went down, and it was a big historical landmark for the world, and so it would attract them to observe this historical event. Could these be travelers in time? People ask me. We don't know for sure, but there sure have been reports of beings with strange technology and
like interdimensional type of thing, right? Like like something like
and
that.
those go back to the 1800s and beyond. There were men who were seen in a dark forest one night carrying handheld bright torches. The observers called them torches, but they were obviously electrical beams.
They're iPhones, probably.
They illuminated the entire forest. They made it look like daylight, the witness said.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, but they weren't, it was a swampy forested area, and they were not walking, they were floating several feet above the surface of the swamp.
And when was that time period wise? That in the
that was in the 1800s, I believe, around 1850, 1860, in the area of Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, nice. And it's in one of our earlier books. So
tell us more about. I know this is like a collab also that you have with I believe his name is John. Also,
John LeMay. Yeah, wonderful young man who's a historian. He's the director of the Museum of History for Southeast New Mexico, which is located in Roswell. Oh, wow. And John did not come from a background of the paranormal or UFOs or anything like that. He has written a number of books about American history, especially in the West. He had written books about Jesse James and the lawmen and so forth. But he and I had a chat once when I was speaking in Roswell at their annual UFO festival, and he said, wouldn't it be interesting to find out if there were UFO sightings during the Old West? And I said, yeah, that's a fascinating subject. So that's how we started down that road, and now we've done 7 books together.
Oh man, congrats! Dude.
Yeah,
awesome.
so.
And I see that they're all over the place. There's Target, Barnes and Nobles, and then Amazon. They have it available digitally, like on the Kindle, hardcover, and then paperback too. So that's awesome stuff. That you got a lot of good, as far as like platforms, things like that. A lot of stories.
I don't know what it is, but John and I were talking just a couple of days ago that it must be all of this renewed interest in UFOs, because our sales have been going up and up and up. I think people right now are wondering not just what the modern cases are all about, but have these UFOs been with us for a really long time? What are they doing? What is their purpose? Because those are the very questions that this new report that's going to be presented to Congress this month. We've seen little glimpses of the report. All these Navy flyers that have taken pictures and film, multiple witnesses and multiple aircraft that have seen these objects. And what's really interesting is it's been primarily Navy airmen that are Navy pilots who have reported this.
This one is pretty interesting. It's also like the sources that they're coming out of, like the New York Post. I'm gonna pull up one right now with CNN that I thought was pretty crazy. Like, and it's crazy because from that time frame that we met, and then now, like all the stuff that's been coming out.
Well,
It's
been
crazy.
covered in all the major media. It was on 60 Minutes, and it's been on the ABC evening news and all the evening news of the major networks. So.
Yeah, the one that really just really because I don't think a president has really like ever said anything, and for Obama to come out and say something
what was you saying?
about
like there's some weird stuff out there.
Interesting UFO stuff.
There's stuff we can't explain, he said. Now that's the whole point. Is for the first time in our nation's history, our government and military have admitted there are objects flying around in the sky that cannot be explained, and that exhibit a technology that is at least 200 to 300 years ahead of anything that we have on Earth. So never before, I mean, people of the current generation don't understand how significant this statement is. Never before has our government ever admitted that we have objects flying in the sky that are much more advanced than anything we have by a factor of 200 to 300 years, and that we cannot explain what they are or where they're from or what they're doing. Now that, as many congressmen have pointed out, that is a potential national security threat to our country.
Definitely.
But right now, we have so much going down in the world with Russia and China and North Korea that the topic of possible aliens, hostile aliens, is way down the list of our concerns as a country, and rightly so, because the aliens have been with us as the whole point of what we've been talking about. The aliens have been with us for hundreds of years, possibly since the beginning of time, and they have, as far as we know, they have never attempted to wipe out our species.
No, definitely. And here's one video, because one of the I guess like he's like one of the lead when it comes to getting this footage out is Jeremy Corbell. I think I'm saying it right, Corbell. He's been I've seen him a couple of times on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's come out with like Bob Lazar.
Yeah, there you go,
and
Bob
some
Lazar.
other people as well. But this one right here, can you see it, Noe?
Yeah, sure can.
All right, let me press play real quick. So this is like, have you seen this one?
I haven't seen
by chance, Noe. It's U.S. Navy warships were swarmed by UFOs. Here's the radar footage. So this is some like radar footage that they released or about to release as well.
I don't recall seeing this particular one. I've seen the aviators footage.
So this one came out May 27th. He released it on his Instagram page. So there's something going on. I think
is that the one where blips disappear and then disappear off
the radar?
And like the only way that could be possible is if they're going, I guess, past a altitude, like super quickly, which doesn't make sense. None of our aviation can do that, or something like that. At least that's what I had seen.
Well, if our aircraft were capable of the maneuvers that we see these objects doing, the pilots inside the craft would be reduced to just a bloody pulp. I mean, no human body could sustain the strains of the motions that we see.
The G-force, right? Basically, the G-force is
exactly. And they're doing this zigzagging, and you can't. The human body cannot take those stresses. So obviously.
Here's another one that they said it actually entered into the water, like it submerged in the water.
Oh yeah, I think.
Well, that was the point I was going to make earlier. It's been the Navy flyers that have been reporting a lot of these, and they've seen these craft submerged down into the water. So we had cases in the mid 1800s with the UFOs coming up out of the water and going down into it. So they're called USOs, unidentified submersible objects, and we've had them way back in time. This is not something new, although this confirms that they are as comfortable going into the water as they are in the skies.
That's a scary thing, and that's what I was thinking as well. Like, if anything, if there were to be like a base, like, wouldn't it make sense to be underwater, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Underwater and underground.
Somewhere just like, where you can't find anything or nobody can suspect a thing. And that's one of the things we haven't even, hit the tip of the iceberg with, with discovering what's in the water. That's
and
pretty in the ocean.
And I guess staying on this topic, Noe, do you have any other, I guess, evidence that talks about these USOs, right? Because I mean, I feel that's something that generally, people don't really talk about or even know about.
Be maybe more like in the submarine type of?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Like when was the submarine invented, Noe? Like probably like around
submarine would have been in the early part of the 20th century, late part of the 19th century. There were very crude submarines in the 1800s, but mostly it wasn't until after 1900, and the most modern ones well into the World War I time period. So
that'd probably be your next book then, right? You'd probably be dabbling a little bit with that, like the underwater, because I know I've heard some people talk about stories, especially like seeing stuff underwater, especially I think they were, one of these stories was they were trying to recover like a missile, and then the missile just got sucked in and they don't know what happened. I was reading something like that a while back,
and I'm pretty sure there has to be documentation from some Marines, showing something on their it's not radar. It's like it's another type of I guess technology they use. What is it called, man? It's like what dolphins use, right?
Like echolocation.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, man. They have a bunch of like, yo, what was that?
I don't know.
No, I think it's kind of similar to that, echolocation in the sense like they ping a little sound, right? Little.
But here's that triangle one that that famous one that's been the infamous one that's actually been out recently. I've seen a lot of both sides to it, and that's what I was trying to, because there's another person in the community that's been really kind of trying to, I guess debunk him. His name's like Mick West, and I was seeing a couple of his videos too, just to get that perspective, because you always gotta, I guess see both sides of it, and he kind of breaks it down a little bit too about this footage. But what do you think on this one, Noe? What do you see here?
This one was very impressive. I've looked at the aviator videos, including this one, and well, what you have here is you have multiple aircraft all making the sighting at the same time, and you have trained observers, the pilots. So they're used to seeing aerial phenomenon that can be explained by normal means, and this they cannot explain. All of them were totally blown away. You can hear the conversation where they don't understand what they're looking at, and they're totally flabbergasted by what they see. So yeah, I think these are a very clear triangle UFO that we were looking at just there.
Yeah, no, it's very very intriguing to see it too, especially because you're right. I mean, these guys are seeing it, they're talking about what's going on.
Yeah,
and you can't really fake that type of or act that type of way, especially being that kind of with that experience. But
and like why would they fake it, right? Like what's the gain from that?
Like the way that this guy Mick West, he says that it's let me see if I can pull it up, but he says that it's kind of some night that like something going on with the camera. But another argument, like you just said, like if this guy is like an expert, how come he's not working with like the government or the CIA? You know what I mean, to debunk it. They're the ones actually saying that it's out there and doing some stuff. So it's kind of just, I like seeing both of those sides. It's kind of like
when we're talking about aviation, airplanes encountering UFOs, we had an interesting case. I want to show you some artifacts that we found.
Okay.
We had an interesting case along the Texas-Mexico border, down near the Big Bend National Park, where we had a report that a UFO had crashed into a small plane. This was in 1974.
Oh yeah.
So we went out there and we talked to the people in the little village closest to where this happened, and they took us out in the desert. And they told us, well, we think this may have been it. And we found over like a quarter of a mile square area, we found all of this airplane debris. Like this is part of a rudder right here that we picked up from the desert. And by the way, when we were bringing all this debris back, the soldiers at the checkpoint were asking us like, what do you want this garbage for? And we were like, well, we just found it interesting. Is it okay if we take it across the border? And they said, yeah, I guess so. Now, this is an interesting piece. I take this around and show it when I do presentations. We think that this is the melted part of it is the melted hull of the small plane. It was like a Cessna-like plane. Of course, everybody on board died. And then, but there's also other elements in here, trace elements that could not be identified when we had spectrographic analysis done on it. So we don't know if during the collision of the plane and the UFO, perhaps parts of the UFO hull integrated into the aluminum from the plane. We found a lot of little pieces like this one out. This was out in the Chihuahuan Desert, about 50 miles south of Presidio, Texas.
Again, this is with the from Chihuahua Desert too, right? That's so. Yeah. When was the time date on that?
1974 was when this incident happened.
And that's where that piece is possibly from. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, this is another piece of a rudder, airplane rudder. We had an expert, an aircraft expert, identify it. And so anyway, this was a case, and there have been several cases in history where there was a report of one of our aircraft crashing with a UFO, and of course resulted in totally obliterating the aircraft. And in this case, the UFO went down, the story goes, near the small Mexican village of Coyame, Chihuahua. And then the U.S. went in with a biohazard team, and they collected all of the remains of the crash.
Right.
And they the large pieces, and they left the area. So
that's the one we mentioned in the last podcast. I know you said that like what they there was a team that went out there and they kind of I guess died, right? Like trying to go to the
Mexican
radiation poisoning or something.
The Mexican officials, right? I think they had died.
Is that the same story?
They dispatched a group of soldiers out of Chihuahua City and from an army base, and they did not they were not dressed in any kind of biohazard gear. So whatever was in that crashed UFO apparently killed them. We estimate around 30 to 32 men lost their lives. And what's interesting is when we've done a lot of research on this case, we found that there was a death reported of approximately that same number of soldiers, which they said happened in a bus collision. Like the soldiers were being transported from the base, and there was a car crash, and
a little cover up right there.
30 men died. And it so happened that it happened at the same time period. So also the military commander for that area, after this happened, was suddenly relocated, and no other mention happens about him in history. So what was that about? And a lot of really weird stuff. And then just a few months after the incident in 1974, the president of the United States met with the president of Mexico at the border, at the Texas-Mexico border. And it was, reporters were not allowed anywhere near them, and they had some sort of discussion that no record was ever kept of that. So a lot of little circumstantial evidence indicates that it appears something may have happened in 1974 related to this UFO crash with the plane. So
now I know that nothing. Last time when we talked, I was trying to see more or less if there has been any like recent sightings. So in the past few weeks, now that the news is out, I know you were mentioning a little earlier that people have been asking you, hey Noe, what do you think about this, that?
Oh yeah,
is there
every day.
Has there anything that's been really like that stood out from all that? Anything that stood out to you the most?
Well, what stands out is that, as I mentioned a while ago, we have never in our history have ever had the U.S. government and the U.S. military admit that UFOs positively, without a single doubt, exist and cannot be identified. We do not know what they are or what they want, but they do exist. See, before the past couple of years, before the past short period of time, there was absolute denial from the government and all branches of government. And this extended not just to the United States, but around the world. And people always used to tell me, why are they denying it? Because the idea that we are being visited by beings with a far superior intelligence and know-how to us does have the potential to unsettle our society, our politics, our worldview, our religious
views. Our way of life, man. Our way of life just in general, right?
So suddenly there are beings coming to our planet that we don't know anything about, that are at least 200 to 300 years more technologically advanced than us, and they exhibit aircraft that just run circles around us. So you can see that there are implications to that. And some people claim that the movies and the books and all of this have been kind of preparing the way, trying to get everybody's mindset to start accepting the concept of highly advanced extraterrestrials. If you look at how many books, movies, TV shows, etc., media have been put out about this idea that the human race will eventually make contact with extraterrestrial species visiting our planet, it's been astronomical in the last few years. So have we been prepared for this eventuality? But it's here because now we know that it's true. The documents are being released. We have a report coming out to Congress this month. And
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the news and how the public is going to take it, because I know that's one of the, you're right. I mean, a lot of people, hopefully, like like you're saying, there's a bunch of movies, people could be desensitized with it, but
they're being desensitized, yes.
But I think at the same time, people are going to overreact in some way, like you say, like the religious component to it. It kind of, there's a lot of questions that are going to be, people are going to want answers for, and there's not going to be a lot of people that are prepared to answer them. Like,
right.
Especially after this whole pandemic, a lot of our leaders kind of, they didn't even know how to handle it. So imagine aliens, that would be something crazy.
What the pandemic proves to me is that the human race isn't all that we think it's cracked up to be. I mean, we were brought to our knees by this microbes,
something we can't even see.
we think we're so great scientifically and otherwise. The pandemic brought us down. We see these now. Suddenly people are focusing on, hey, what if there is more advanced intelligent life out there in the galaxy? And suddenly I think, we had a record number of UFO sightings during the pandemic. I don't know if you all were aware of that.
No, I didn't.
No, I remember I was asking you. I wanted to find out more about the local. Like
that just came out recently, that there were more UFO sightings reported in 2020 than in any previous year. Mm-hmm. That these sort of statistics have been held. So people became more cognizant of a life and intelligence outside of our own here on this planet, when we realized that humanity is still very vulnerable. And despite all our technological advances in the past few decades, we're still nowhere near the level that we see some of these beings at.
Right.
We think we know. We think we know, but we don't know.
I know that's the crazy thing. And when you hear like Commander Fravor, am I saying his name right? He said like when they were jamming the radar scanners, how scared he kind of was. It's kind of one of those things too. You can't act or you can't fake. It's somebody's experience, especially at that level. And
yeah, and in the 1980s, we had the famous case where the UFOs above the nuclear missile silo, they shut down all the controls.
You're saying like they did them. They did them, right?
As soon as the UFOs appeared, all of the machinery, all the computers and everything started shutting down at that missile silo.
Now that I was thinking about it, one of the stories that I did want to ask you last time was that trucker that got pulled out of his car. There was something like that, or he got pulled out of the truck. Do you remember that one? Can you tell us more about that? I think it was one of your breakdowns that you were having on not the break, like you were like talking in front of a crowd about pretty much just about the experience, like local experiences.
Oh yeah, we did have a case reported locally where a gentleman claimed that he was in his 18-wheeler driving it, and then suddenly he was pulled out of it by an object that was hovering above him. And he found himself later, I don't remember if he found himself just walking near his rig, which had just come to a stop alongside the road. But it was a very odd case, and I just picked out that case because it didn't sound like something that someone would make up. The guy sounded genuine. He reported it to MUFON, and he reported it to the local police. But as often happens, people are hesitant to speak, number one. And number two, when they do speak, other people make fun of them. Yeah. And so then they stop speaking. And that's unfortunate, but maybe now that there's been this disclosure, people won't be as hesitant to speak anymore. That's what I'm hoping.
And maybe that's the case with the pandemic, in the sense that, I mean, I think it was announced about a year ago that they were going to release this, classified UFO information, right? I mean, it's been a while, right? But
right,
I mean,
yeah,
of course,
I think that article first came out last year around the summer, and everyone was like, "What?"
So I mean, maybe people kind of saw that and like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm not, I guess, out of my mind. Maybe it's actually something, and maybe that's why has been an increase. I don't know.
A lot more confidence, for people to come out and say some stuff like that they've experienced. But like recently, so I know, how about here in the Rio Grande Valley, has anything picked up sighting wise?
Yeah,
we always have a lot of lights in the sky.
Any more target signs in the air, or target lights,
or HEV? Was it HEV? I think HEV, right?
Well, some of the most impressive sightings in recent years have been around Moore Air Base, which is located north of Mission. Okay. I don't, that is now supposed to be an agricultural research facility, and then you have strange craft landing at all hours of the night, and you have UFO sightings being reported around it. So what exactly is going on there? We know that the U.S. military uses decommissioned Air Force bases for various top secret aviation experiments and so forth. So we don't know for certain what's going on out at Moore Air Base, but somehow I have a feeling that there's more than agricultural research.
If there was anywhere to put a department of advanced technology, it would be there.
And the agriculture, quote unquote, agriculture.
We're looking center. This is a department that's funding the agriculture for the soldiers or something.
Hey, I have a relative who worked for many years at Moore Air Base, and he says that late at night they would herd all the employees, all the civilian employees, contracted employees. They would get them all together and herd them into this big building without windows.
No.
And they would hear these aircraft arriving. And he says that a buddy of his caught a glimpse one night, and there were men in biohazard gears coming out of that big military cargo plane carrying these steel boxes.
Oh, God.
I mean, in the middle of the night. This was like 2 or 3 in the morning. So what's going on? We don't know.
How much more evidence, right, than you need than that, right? Of course. I mean, we like to see physical evidence, but I mean, that's pretty apparent. That's pretty obvious.
As far as the convention, how was everything on your perspective? How did you feel about it, and what are the plans for next year?
Well, it came down to the wire whether to have it or not, because of it was the tail end of the pandemic. The vaccinations were just picking up steam. And so there were a lot of people that didn't feel comfortable attending, but it turned out really well. And now we're just moving forward, and we want to go full steam on the next one. So in 2022, I think we're going to get the ship back upright. We don't have to do the outdoor stuff with the social distancing and the mask and all that. We're hoping to have a back to normal, nice big event in 2022, and bring some really good speakers. I think we're going to focus next year on these disclosures.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Because that's what people really want to hear about these days. So Edinburgh is becoming like very well recognized for putting information out there about UFOs. We've been doing it. This will be our 10th conference in 2022. So
nice.
Started 10 years ago. So It's been picking up steam. We did miss the 2020 because of the pandemic, and this past one was kind of an abbreviated one, but we're hoping to be back fully.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I hope so, man, because that'd be awesome. 10-year reunion with new, unclassified documents out there on the table.
I've been spreading the word too, man. I've been telling people about it. They're like, "What? I didn't know that. I've been looking for something like that." Like a lot of people have been telling me, and I'm like, "What? Like, there's this is going on." Yeah, it's at Edinburgh, and that's cool, man, to tell people, because a lot more like we're talking about, a lot more people are engaged with that content now and seeing it, and like actually being credible now, like where people can actually see what's going on.
Because it's funded by the city of Edinburgh, there isn't a huge advertising budget, so it's basically a lot of word of mouth and folks that are interested in the topic getting the word out through the social media and so forth. But it's been slowly growing, and it's gotten better and better, I think.
The one thing I loved was just, everybody running around dressed up, and that's what you want. Like, everybody's really engaged, especially the city of Edinburgh. Like you're saying, they embrace it, and everybody has a fun time going out there. But
well, some people view this as a scary topic, like why would you want to do a conference on this? But it really can be fun at a certain level and family friendly. And so that part of it is really good too. We have the outdoor festival with the food vendors and with people dressing up in costumes, and the kids have a great time, drawing pictures of aliens and going to see the fake alien autopsy and
wow, man. Yeah.
And so that part of it, I think, is important because it draws people's attention to the more serious topic. So then the following day, we have the all-day lectures by some of the country's leading UFO researchers. And that part of it is where you get your solid footing on what's going on in the world of UFO.
I saw Nick Pope on Twitter the other day when that story, when Obama came out and said that he was there with it, pretty much like saying, I told you so, like type of thing. It was kind of
I specifically selected Nick Pope. Well, I selected most of the speakers for this year's event, recommended them to the city, and I chose Nick because Nick's right in the middle of it. He was a former head of UFO research for the British government, and since coming, he's now a U.S. citizen. He married an American citizen. So, nice. Ever since he came over, he's continued to be very involved and very knowledgeable through his government contacts back in Britain and the contacts he's made here in the U.S. He's virtually on every TV show about UFOs in America. I don't know if you all have
like
noticed that.
Ancient Alien is one, right? And yeah, I think, doesn't he have like a podcast now too?
I've accused him of being an ancient alien, but
so he was. I think that was okay. I think I saw something like that, but yeah, no, I feel like I've seen him in the podcast circuit. Like I think he was.
Oh yeah, he's everywhere.
That's cool, man. But
he's been in a couple of documentaries.
Anything else before we leave, Noe? So I know you're gonna try to go down as far as like the timelines. You're gonna probably continue with book 8, right? So that would be the next one. You're talking about the Roaring.
We're doing 20. UFOs of the Roaring 20s next, and when we started down this road, we didn't think that there were many UFO cases reported in the 1920s, and we were totally wrong because we are finding an incredible amount. This was during the Depression and the rumblings that eventually led to World War II.
Oh, yeah.
World War I had just ended, and this was a very stressful time period for American society, and there were a significant number of UFO sightings, as we have found out. And so our next book is UFOs of the Roaring 20s. Nice. And then we're going to continue on with the 30s after that. Now, once we hit the 1940s, that's considered the modern UFO era. So we'll probably pretty much be complete. And John and I want to go back, since we've done only North America up to now, we want to go back and do some books on UFO sightings throughout the world, not just North America, but what about the rest of the world? What about Great Britain, France?
Because there's some countries that kind of have that those details already out there, right? Like, and the government is kind of like, hey, here's the info. Like, this is what's come out.
I can imagine like Egypt and that area too. You know,
Saudi Arabia. I know.
Like the promised land, right? Or like,
so we're gonna do we're gonna do UFO sightings of the world next for the time period that we've covered so far, which is the 1800s and early 1900s. So I'm looking forward to
that's awesome,
doing the research on that as well.
One of the things I didn't want to mention is the last podcast, man. I know I had mentioned could it be possibly that maybe it's the U.S. government trying these prototype vehicles and whatnot, but I don't know. I guess after these confirmations that we don't know what the hell it is, right? It just kind of makes me think that, man, maybe it's not the U.S. government. Maybe it really is something out there that we don't really even know. Especially
we got a preview of the report that's going to be given to Congress later this month, and they specifically conclude in that report, it was already told to us that they specifically concluded that it was nothing, no kind of secret aviation program, nothing that the U.S. has developed. Specifically, that is what's being told to Congress. So that's been ruled out. So now, what is it? Is what remains the question.
I know that's one of the points that I was bringing. Maybe it's a secret, but no, that's. Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Like to hear that.
And then just to think that again, since the beginning of human documentation, right? They've been seeing these objects. How do you explain that, right? How do you explain, for thousands of years?
How do you hide it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, and then I think, like you mentioned, no, I mean, we didn't, touch aviation until the early, 1920s.
Pretty much the period that you're covering right now is kind of like when we started.
Right.
It's just they've been here for a while, or they've been visiting for. It's crazy.
This is what's fascinating about this series of books is we were covering the time period before airplanes. So whatever people were seeing in the sky, they weren't birds. They were
No, and I love like you always have like, or when you find the newspaper clippings, you make sure to put them on there too, and it has like the headlines. So those are awesome sources, especially. But I really appreciate your time, Noe. Thanks for joining in on your next book. Just let us know, and we'll have you on, and we'll talk more. I'm pretty sure there'll be more details out and about.
Yeah, we'll have our next book out around Halloween. So hopefully I'll be back and scare you guys.
You could bring Jack on too, and we could talk and see have you both on too,
and then go over all this new unclassified information, man. I mean, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, we're getting some upgrades here in the studio too, so eventually we'll probably try to get some guests in too in the future. So it's
the hot alien summer, man.
Hot alien summer, as we say.
Very good.
but yeah, appreciate it, Noe. Thanks again.
It's great to talk to you guys, and I appreciate your interest in the topic, which a lot of people don't have that interest, but you guys do. So
I know there's a lot of people I've been talking to. They're really like fascinated with that now, and I've been telling them, hey, watch this, and we go over even local. I do want to do like a little series, and this will probably be the part 3 to it. But appreciate it, Noe. And then also, where can people find you? I know you're on Facebook, and then RoswellBooks.com, right?
RoswellBooks.com links to everything else, so I send people there.
All right, awesome. All right, Noe, well, thank you so much and appreciate it.
What else do we got, man? What else do we got?
Speaking of goats, like, one of the things, Julio Jones trade happened.
He's a goat too. He's a goat.
He is with the Tennessee Titans now. So, one of the things I think we're going to dabble with a little bit more now that football season is coming up is fantasy football.
Oh, so man,
we're going to be talking about a little, we'll probably even have to segment off a part just for fantasy football, because I love calling things. I love fantasy football.
Yeah.
So we're probably gonna have during football season, we'll have a extra episode for y'all, breaking the seal fantasy football. We'll probably kick it off more than likely with a live episode of the kickoff. So we'll see what you think about that, Ghost. Like, we'll do a little live episode.
We'll do an 8-hour episode, bro.
We're gonna break it down. Today we have Mel Kiper joining us.
And just as we predicted, the Green Bay Packers win.
Mel Kiper, what do you think about the rookies? So I think, yeah, man, it'll be an interesting showdown. Be Cowboys versus Buccaneers. So
is that the first game?
That's will be a Thursday.
That's the first game of the season.
Yeah, well, we're gonna watch it, bro.
God, bro.
Let's go live. We'll pick out we'll do like how we did with the draft.
R.I.P. Cowboys, bro. So wait, who are you going for then?
I'm going for the Cowboys. I'm just kidding. Whoever wins.
Bro, get the out of here.
Whoever wins, I'm going for, bro.
Let the better man win.
It's gonna be it's perfect. We're gonna do it. We're gonna have we'll do a live stream. Well, you can watch along with us as we watch the Cowboys take down the Buccaneers. We'll see, bro.
They're gonna do it, bro.
We'll see. We got a good defense. We'll see what's happened. But trades are happening, right? So we want to dabble into football thing a little bit more. We love football. We did some.
That's coming up. That's coming up.
But Julio Jones, that trade happened. It's out there now.
Who's the quarterback for the Titans?
So the Ryan Tannehill.
That's right. There you
go.
He's
been getting better every year.
He's pretty good.
Last year, at one point, he was even close to Mahomes as far as quarterback rating.
Mm-hmm.
Very close, bro.
But not close to Rodgers, obviously. Speaking of Rodgers, I'm a little salty,
that too,
bro.
Man. Okay, so that's where I was about to bring it in.
We're talking about that.
So Julio Jones got traded. Second, I think it was a fourth and a third. Second, fourth, and a third. I have to look it up. Let me look it up real quick. But the trade is happening. He's going to the Tennessee
While you look
Titans.
that up, let me just ball
but I'm
my
thinking,
tears.
But that's my question to you then. Okay, as far as an organization, how far do you go to satisfy your quarterback?
At this point in time, I think the relationship.
Give him a Julio Jones.
Yeah, 100%, bro. You
because remember, this report came out before the draft, before the phone call, that he wanted to get out there, right? That he wanted to leave. So why not day of the draft? Make a send that first round pick that you're gonna waste on that cornerback and give it to the fucking Falcons. Like,
you're talking about for Julio Jones, right? You're saying?
Right. Like, if you're Green Bay, why didn't you do that like the day of the,
bro?
That's another hiccup, bro. Just shows
why did you kick a field goal, bro? On 4th down, you're down by a fucking touchdown,
just shows
bro.
It's not Aaron Rodgers' fault. It's
a coaching, bro. And I think he's been so frustrated.
No, not
bro.
the coaching. It's
the organization, bro. If you want to be disingenuous,
it's like the GM. The GM mostly, they say that he's the guy that everybody's fucking like, what is going on? Why is he doing that? Nobody knows. Like what his thought process of drafting a quarterback in the first round. Yeah, he did a good job picking up a good staff, but at the same time, like, that staff was already prepared by that coach. That coach already knew who he was going to bring in, and all of that is on him. And he did a good job his first 2 years. Like, I don't think a young coach like Aaron Rodgers is older than him, right?
Yeah.
So a young coach like that to make waves like that for like Green Bay. Especially when Green Bay has really been inconsistent with Mike McCarthy, and I'm afraid that's probably going to happen with the Cowboys.
See, the thing, Mike McCarthy, he has that one Super Bowl, right? But I mean, that's fucking 10 years ago, and I do think that he's still a pretty good coach. I think he's still a pretty good coach, man. But I think what he kind of lacked was on the offensive side. He was kind of more defensively, and that's what I think lately the fucking Packers have been dealing with, dude. Obviously, they've had Rodgers. Obviously, their offense has been, scoring machine. But then when it comes down to defense, they always kind of hiccup. Defense wins championships. Yeah. You got to invest in your defense.
So they're giving away a 2022 second round pick, a 2023 fourth round pick, and then they're also going to send a 6th round pick 2023. So easily, like I said, I think if you were to trade a first round pick, but then again, you have to be on the same page with the Falcons. But I mean, think about it. You need more O-line. Maybe you can get another receiver late like that. There was a lot of good receivers that came out late. That's just weird, man. That's a weird thing.
I'm so pissed off right now about the whole package situation. I literally want to walk out of this podcast right now.
But it just makes
I'm so fucking pissed, bro.
Your guy is mad. You make sure that you, like, if you want to make him happy.
I mean, what I'm tripping out is, like, if he doesn't play for the Packers, Love's gonna fucking start, dude. I mean, he's not on the level of Rodgers, like, bro. He's not MVP level. How?
But at the same time, too, I think you mentioned this earlier when we were talking about it, is that if the Falcons, they don't want to trade in the division, but how fucking cocky do you think the Falcons are to think that they're going to be good?
Dude, they haven't been good, the Falcons, ever since the Super Bowl run, bro.
So it's kind of like, why worry about that when you could worry about the future? So,
because
you know what I mean?
The Falcons, dude,
a first round pick would have been good.
Matt Ryan's on his way out, but they don't have a running back.
I think that's a cool thing about the NFL now. I think a lot of that stuff is getting exposed. Even like recently, like, I mean, I hate about like the whole tension with race and stuff, but there was like a thing in the NFL that said that they were actually still using that stuff, like the old medicine. Like, that they were saying African Americans have low cognitive function.
I just kind of heard about that.
Yeah,
but, I mean, that's not true though. Like, what the fuck?
I know it's not true, but they said that they recently, like, the NFL was still going, like, using that as one of their guidelines on things, like that minorities have a low cognitive function. Then,
but like for what though? As in like picking up players,
making deals, picking up players. Even for like the CTE stuff. I think it was called.
Dude, you know what? Like the organization, the NFL, Goodell, fuck those motherfuckers, bro. They're pieces of poop.
Race norming. It's called race norming. So race norming.
It's fucking business, trying to make money.
It said,
okay, so in Rodgers' fucking contract, what pissed me off is he couldn't even waive the fact that if he doesn't appear for, training camp, he's gonna get fined. He can't waive that shit, bro. This is a contract, bro. You have a right to like fucking contract however the fuck you want, man. Mm-hmm. For them to be like, oh, you can't waive certain things in a contract within this fucking league. Fuck you, bro. Fucking this is America, bro.
Yeah, but
you should be able to contract however the fuck you want to contract, bro. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, but it's kind of goes back to the whole like these corporations have everything into like even somebody that's making a good point about is that Jake Paul kid. Out of everything that came out of the week,
that motherfucker.
Out of everything that came out of the weekend, the thing that made sense to me is that the only reason they're doing all these fights is because they want Dana White to realize that these UFC fighters are getting paid less. And then another thing, that analogy that he was bringing in is that the music corporations, even these NBA leagues, they have a monopoly in a sense because they have the best talent and they're creating the best content, and the content is getting pushed out there, but the players are not getting paid anything. And they're putting their life on the line for it. So I think that's NBA, I was like, holy shit, where did this kid come up with that?
NBA, bro, they get paid chingos. So like, dude, NFL though, okay.
I just think this guy's a UFC? YouTuber, but then after that bomb and the way that he said it, like he actually had to, I think he actually broke like the fourth wall in a sense where he's like actually being real. Like I was like, dude, I always see this YouTuber trying to fuck around. Even he got in trouble for the riot stuff a while back, but maybe this guy has a good point.
Well, no, I think
like a disruptor in a sense. He says that he's the Uber of content. So maybe that's a good thing all around for people like us,
I still think he's a piece of shit, right? But he's smart in the sense like, dude, okay, this guy's making millions and millions of dollars off these fucking fights. Yeah, he knows he's not a professional, but he knows how to capture attention. He knows how to, kind of come into the market.
But that's the same thing
and
too.
Fucking make millions.
And UFC does it. ESPN does it with their analysts, and then they kind of keep them in a bubble. Like I was hearing Dan Le Batard, he was on the Bill Burr podcast, and he was talking about that as well. Or Bill Burr, like he's a genius. He was kind of talking about that in a sense, how when you're with a corporation like that, and I even had a chance to be in that, where you're giving ideas to people that make sense, that are cost effective. Some of these people that are higher ups, they don't really give a shit about it. They're gonna shoot down your idea because they feel their idea is better because of the label they have with the business. And I think that's kind of like, dude,
that's just a corporate America lifestyle though, bro.
Like you give somebody a label and they think they can do whatever the fuck they want.
It's just like the higher ups.
And you see nepotism too. So
yeah,
then,
dude,
that's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like, but now people are starting to realize that, like, oh shit, like why is this guy telling me what to do when I'm the one that brings in the money, I'm the one that brings in the dollars, I'm the one that works my ass off to put this content out there. So why am I not getting paid for it? And I think that's where like the NFL athletes, the UFC athletes, all that shit, like kind of
and dude,
it kind of fucks with them because they're really the money makers. Like that's why when John Jones, like when you see all this stuff with John Jones, they're trying to bring John Jones back, or they say they're trying to bring John Jones
back. Yeah, but they're saying like, nah,
but they can't agree on a dollar bill, and then they make John Jones look bad
because he's afraid to fight, quote unquote. But no, John Jones ain't afraid, bro.
You all bring the right amount of money involved, and I think that's what you're seeing with these events like Mayweather. And I think that's a good pitch, and I think that's why he's getting all these people involved to do that, because they agree too. Like Mayweather probably thinks I could have made more money,
if anything.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
But he's probably still making, I don't know how much. But look, and I think really NFL, UFC fighters, they have the more risk of getting fucked up, bro, and they're getting paid the less, which is kind of like fucked up, bro. It really is, man.
Like even this past week, dude, the NFL said that don't use I think it was Turterol or some sort of painkiller. That with the shots, like I'm pretty sure you heard about that, right? It became a norm in the NFL and then all of a sudden the NFL a couple years ago they said don't do it, it might be risky, and then a couple of weeks ago or last week they said it is risky, don't do it. A couple of these NFL players that put their their trust in a lot of these doctors and medical people, that's what they prescribe. They said, hey man, you have to get these shots. And now some of these people like Albert Hainsworth, he's thinking that he got liver failure because of that, allegedly. Like, he's thinking of all that stuff, that maybe because he was taking those shots from his team, those painkiller shots during the game when you're not supposed to, that he developed liver cancer over that, man. So
probably, man,
a lot of these owners really don't give a fuck, man. Like, they don't care. And even like I saw Johnny Manziel, you should see it, busting. He came out with Busting with the Boys. He talks about his experience with the GMs in the NFL, and it's freaking crazy. His perspective is like he remembers seeing a lot of incidents happen when ownership is like, hey, make sure you start this guy, put this guy on right now in game, like texting the coach, like, you need to put this guy in, like kind of like how you see it in high school. And you know what I mean?
I know exactly.
You know exactly,
mean,
right? It's kind of like like one of those things where you see that shit. Like when somebody doesn't really, it's kind of like when somebody has a say in things like that, and that's what happens. Like, because their money is on the line, their millions of dollars are on the line, so they have to tell these coaches what to do. It's just a whole clusterfuck of people getting treated unevenly when it comes financially, content wise, creative ideas and stuff like that. That's why it's very important to make your ideas, copyright and stuff like that too, because there's a lot of people that are trying to bank off these ideas or your ideas, and it sucks, to see that happen, especially when athletes are doing, giving it their all. So hopefully with this whole fight thing, they can realize that these guys need to get paid fairly. But there's been a lot of exciting playoff series. The Clippers and Mavs are one. There's also
I was tripping out
the
about
Nets and the
tripping
Bucks
out that Lakers
right
are out, bro.
In a way, dude. In a way, yeah, it's kind of like a bittersweet thing. It's kind of like you like to see
LeBron kind of
like to see LeBron struggle, but then you don't like to see LeBron lose. I don't know. It's kind of like
it's one of those. It's like a double-edged sword, right? I mean, in a way, you don't want to see
kind of like
win.
the Brady effect,
that's different,
and
bro.
the Aaron Rodgers effect. It's kind of like those guys are good, and you hate to see them lose and not make it to the championship.
It's one thing to lose, but it's another thing if I get cheated upon. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole other story.
Time and time again, you have like the level of athlete. You have that level of competitiveness and the level of where everybody should be at as far as in your peer group, and to not make a championship kind of sucks. But at the same time, there is a lot of distractions, that have been happening with LeBron.
Bro.
Not only that goat, but another goat too. Like with Aaron Rodgers,
injured, right? He's been injured like throughout this season. I think, right? He got a few injuries, and then I think the whole Lakers team is banged up.
One thing I didn't like to see was him, and I hate when they kind of do dox these athletes like that. Like, oh, this guy walked out, but at the same time too, when you're gonna perform like that, it's only. I mean, what's a handshake? You every summer you're playing ball with these guys.
Wait, who didn't handshake who or what?
Like LeBron, he caught him. They caught him walking off the court. First time they caught him 5 minutes before the game was over. They were getting blown out. He walked off. Second game, the last game when they lost, walked off again. Didn't even shake Chris Paul, but he did give Booker a jersey. But come on, man. Like, people know your true intentions, right off the bat. And like, when it comes to maybe you decided to go give this guy a signed jersey because you felt bad because you walked off the court. That comes to mind with me. Like, I mean, LeBron James, he's a good athlete. I mean, I'm just a couch reporter, I guess you could say. But at the same time, I guess you want to see these guys perform, or when you have a base, like when you see Jordan do his thing. And he does it at a level where nobody can.
In the Last Dance,
like
he brought that up.
Yeah,
right?
he loses and he comes back. He doesn't lose. Go get his best friend.
He lost and he still shook those people's hands, but then he beats them, and then they don't shake his hand, right? Like stuff like that. I guess what I would say. I mean, I guess maybe that's another reason why there's not.
And Brady does it too. He's not the only guy. Brady
side.
does it too, where he walks off the field.
I think it's just like, bro, like they play the game to win, bro, and in a way they're kind of sore losers, but in a way I think that's what makes them champions in a way, right? Because they don't want to lose, bro. They take it. Yeah, they take it.
I guess that's a good thought, like to think about it like that, where like they're just so much of a great competitor that even if they lose after that 30 seconds, it needs they need a like maybe like a good 20 minutes to regain their composure, go back and realize, oh shit, I fucked up. Maybe I should give him a signed jersey.
Yeah, no, I mean it's like kind of like the heat of the moment, bro. Sometimes it's hard, man, and I don't dog him for that in a way because I mean, yo, honestly, sometimes some days I don't want to say hi to people. You know what I'm saying? Like some days you just like wake up and like, nah, bro, I'm gonna keep to myself. But then there's
sometimes where like if you put yourself at that level, like in the public, like LeBron James does, where he has his own school, he has his own like
oh yeah, see that's that's different. Like he's out there, so he has to save face.
He has to save face. He has to be like he's making an example to his students.
But does he?
Yeah, like I said, he's making an example for his students. So like, let's say the next kid that plays basketball on his school, which is like an idea. It's pretty much like an idea academy for people in Cleveland and Ohio.
Yeah.
So what that kid is gonna be all right to do that? Like,
man, you know what? You gotta live life, bro. You gotta live life, but at the same time, live up to people's expectations.
Exactly. So that's why you do like a Kawhi Leonard. You just you stay out of the fucking public eye. You do your thing. You ball out. You get that fucking. You're gonna ball out. You're gonna go to the next round. It's live or die, and that's one thing.
It's viva or chella.
Exactly. I'm gonna be biased here a little bit because I like giving people a second chance, and Kawhi Leonard is one of those dudes. Like he did so much for the Spurs organization, and for what he's doing for the Clippers right now.
So pissed that
he's balling out, bro. In another level, like he shut down Luka. I'm calling it right now. Like Kawhi Leonard is going to take it to the next level. He's a ball out.
I think especially after he saw the Lakers were out, I think he was kind of scared of them.
He has the killer instinct. He's going to win the game, and it's good to see Kawhi do his thing and make it to the next round.